welcome back to the Plunder Den. In this week's episode, we're going to be building a shipwreck. So I kind of decided to do this project mainly to flush out my ocean tables, just to add a little bit of terrain and a little more excitement to just an ordinary ocean map. It definitely, it's kind of in junction of with the previous episode. We did stone barriers, which you can also use on an ocean map. So these are two good pieces that you could use together to add a little more excitement to that table. They could be used as an objective marker, but you don't have to necessarily just use it for Blood and Plunder. It could be just something you add to a fantasy game or Dungeons and Dragons or something like that. It's just a busted up ship that's sitting on a shoreline that you could be used for cover, or it could be, maybe it's an objective in the actual match itself. All right, so let's take a look at it. This is a finished project. And you can see I've kind of cut it at an angle, so when it's sitting on a flat table, it looks like it's either sinking, or it could be, hit up on a beachhead or something like that. So that's kind of what I was going for on this piece. So I can just kind of use it in all sorts of different scenarios and different maps. All right, so that's what we're going to be building in this episode. I am going to spend a lot more time on the painting portion of it as well, so you guys can see how I painted this up. All right, so before we get down to the table, I just want to mention the Summer Plunder really quickly. We're going into week 7, which is fire and smoke. So essentially, you just have to start a fire on the table and get that extra point for your faction. Now, the English is sitting in 3rd position. We're behind the Pirates now, too. And the Dutch are almost caught up with us. So we really need to get those games in there and get back on track and hopefully maybe we can catch those Spanish by the end of it. We only got a few more weeks left to go here, so. But if you want to know more about the Summer Plunder, I will put a link to the Blood and Pigment page and the Firelock Games page, and they have a lot of information and details on it, where you're able to submit your matches and just overall what prizes you can win for playing Blood and Plunder and Oak and Iron during this campaign. All right, if you guys like what we're doing here in the Plunder Den, make sure you smash that like button and consider subscribing to the Plunder Den and get first-hand information when I start these kind of projects. All right, everyone, let's get down to the table, and let's start painting, and let's start crafting. All right, so this is pretty much how I started. I just cut 3 pieces of insulation foam here. Just rough shape of what a boat would look like. That one piece is my rudder on the bottom. And that's the bottom part of the ship. It's kind of sinking. And then I figured a second level up top would be an order on the back of the ship. So I kind of made it overlap just a smidgen on the bottom piece. And that's really just a basic skeleton. So I used some white tacky glue, and I just glued that together. And then I decided to add these windows that were left over from the previous ship build that I did on this channel. It was a leftover part. But you don't have to add that on there. I happen to have that on hand. You could just leave it wooden planks on the back of the ship. You don't need to add the windows. But I had it, so I figured I'd add it. And I just kind of framing some of this stuff out with some balsa wood. And that's coffee stir sticks that are on the rudder. And then I did a basic door entranceway. So I'm just kind of adding the basic things, essentially, where I want everything to be on the boat. And that doorway was just balsa wood. I cut out flat balsa wood. So then I moved on to adding some more framing. That's more balsa wood. It's more of a square balsa wood. And I kind of figured I wanted to frame the edges of the top of this back part of the boat. And then I was going to use them as, side walls. If you glue them on top of each other, I kind of learned that from doing the crates. It kind of looks like wooden planks, and then you can get some thickness to the wall. And then I also rated my jewelry. So this is these little seahorses are from Michael's. It's just a necklace that I got out of the jewelry section of it. Right now, actually, they got some good clearance on jewelry. If you happen to be at Michael's in your area, good time to pick up some of that stuff. And you can see I started framing up the wall, and then I put a flat kind of like an overhang on the top there. So it's kind of looking like overhang over the door. Added a little bit of dowels there as like kind of pillars. Just adding some basic details on here to give some point of interest to the overall construction of the boat. It's not going to be too crazy because it's just the back of the boat. Now I'm gonna do the planks on the bottom. I'm gonna use coffee stir sticks, mainly because they're skinnier and they look more like ones that you would see on a ship, opposed to using popsicle sticks are too wide, or tongue or depressors that I like to use for other things. They're just too wide. So those square balsa woods, I'm kind of framing out where the gun ports are going to be for the cannons, where they would be. One's going to be kind of destroyed, and the other one's going to be actually pretty well intact. You can see how I did that on there. And really, what's on top of there, that's actually flat balsa wood as well. I got that flat balsa wood, just so you know, from Amazon. That's where I get that stuff. It's actually really good for cutting in skinny planks, and it's easy to cut with a box cutter. And it comes in handy for these kind of details on this boat. So I'm just showing you all the framing that I've done. I've added another framing around the base, the bottom, where they overhang the two pieces of foam. And that gives you kind of a nice framing. And then I'm just showing you the pattern that I'm starting to glue down on here for the decks. And you can see I'm kind of just randomly putting it on there, not really putting in any kind of particular pattern. Here's some more stuff I got from Michael's, the clearance bins there. I figured these would be good caps for kind of a lantern or a decorative design that's on the back of the boat. So I'm just kind of gluing these things on. I just kind of used some, actually I think I used some hot glue to glue those two together, but ended up using white tacky glue to glue it to the ship itself. So I got these big gaps in here, and I had contemplated putting gun ports in there. And then I said, you know what, I'm probably not going to need to put that much detail. I'm just going to put wooden planks on there, just so it kind of fills in that spot nicely. It'd be nice to paint too, so that's what I was kind of thinking there. But again, I'm going to do the same thing on the reverse side. So that's what I'm kind of showing you there. The same repeat from the other side on this side. And just kind of fill it in. But you can see where that other gun port is on the other side. I kind of only left it partially there, so it looks like it's all smashed up a little bit. So it's kind of damaged. And the ship kind of leans more to that corner, so it looks like it's sinking that way. So then I added some more seahorses details to the edge. I decided to get some of that square hobby wood I have, just to make it like a door on the top compartment. You can see the planks are done on the bottom. I'm going to repeat that up top here. So there's planks up top. And I'm going to start building up the walls in the back there. You can see I've added more of the square balsa wood in there. And then, of course, I'm going to have to fill in those sides that I haven't done yet. Also, you can see I put two balsa wood next to the doorway in there. So it just kind of looks more like there's framing around the doorway going into that cabin. So this actually piece right here, I got it from a place called You Betcha. It's a thrift store is a good place also to find costume jewelry. It's a good place to find stuff for your, tricking out your ship here with some details. And again, more framing on here. I just kind of stopped at certain stages so you can see how I'm just kind of gluing things together. Really, when I built this, there was no plan. It was just, I built enough ships now, I think, over time that I've kind of gotten used to what it should look like. So just kind of winged it. I'm just showing you I still need to put those wooden planks on the side. All right, so this is pretty much all the fabrication is done for this entire piece. This is all we're going to need to do, and then we're going to let the paint do the rest. But I'll just show you all the way around what it looks like. So hopefully this will help you can do something roughly like this. I actually got so confident doing this. I think maybe I could do an entire ship, to be honest. I know that new Blood and Crowns coming out. Maybe I'll be able to build an entire ship for Blood and Crowns. And I just showed you that I glued together a cannon. I just wanted to add a cannon detail to there as well. So that's just a Firelock Games cannon. Completely optional. If you don't want to put it on there, that's completely fine. It's not crucial to the overall design. So the first thing I did was add the black craft paint to everything, as I always do. Sealed it all in. And then moving on to the real brown, which is the first color I always use. And I'm just going to show you kind of, again, the technique I use. I always kind of go away from the grains, not go with the grains. You kind of want to highlight all the grains I put in there. I did mention, but I did use my hobby knife to skewer the wood, just to kind of give it that wood texture. I forgot to mention that while I was constructing it. But I've done, virtually all my details with wood like that. I do that. So I guess maybe I just forgot to mention it. But I'm mentioning it now. And it comes up good when you're painting it. So you can see I'm spending a lot of time in the center. And why that is I'm trying to create the weathered effect in the center of the ship. So you've seen me do this on docks and other things. It's the same concept. So this is bark brown. It's a lighter brown, and we're going to highlight some more and hit some more of the center. I'm just showing you how the real brown looks like that on the whole ship. I painted the bottom too, the whole thing. Just want to paint the whole thing up. And I'm just going to start in the center where I want it to be the brightest. And that's really kind of where, when you're painting, start with your paint in the center where you want it to be the brightest. Kind of work your way out. And as you work your way out, you have less and less paint on your brush. I try not to go too many times to the well to add too much paint on there, because I like to, have just a little bit of the color on there and just kind of hit the raised areas, right? So you're kind of dry brushing, and you can see I don't clean my brush between colors. I like the interplay of colors in my brush, so I just keep going. I just keep adding colors on top of colors, and I just find it gives me a nice clean effect on when I'm painting. So this is after I've added the bark brown. You can see we've highlighted a few areas. And now we're going to move to the Pablo, which is the really bright highlights. It's got orange color. And again, if you've watched my channel for a while, these are all familiar colors. I've used these constantly. I actually have big boxes of these in the Plunder Den because I use them for virtually everything. I just like putting that base earth tones in there first before I start adding some other colors in there. So I'm just kind of hitting the middle of the doorway and some of the planks on here just to give it a little bit of a highlight. Even though it's kind of bright right now, we're going to cover actually a lot of it with other colors over top. But I like it to be brighter, so when you add the other colors on top, it does look like it's more weathered in those areas. So that's why I particularly do it in this order. So I'm just showing you a little more at lengths here, how I add it on there. You can see I'm using different kind of rubbing techniques to get it into the boards. This is another reason why I like to use real wood. I probably could do this whole thing in foam, but I don't think I could do the same painting techniques that I like to do. If you watched me on my channel for a while, I'm pretty rough. I like to really bang it out there. And if it was foam, it would probably tear it up. It wouldn't look as good. I wouldn't be able to get that effect. Now, some people are better at painting with foam. I prefer the just using real wood. So this is after I've done all the Pablo. You can see I've highlighted, again, some of the same similar areas, creating that weathered look. And now we're going to move to camel. Now, if I was doing stonework, I'd probably cover the whole thing. But I'm really going to be a little more sparse about this. I want to do the edges of the timbers here because the wood would be lighter there where it has snapped. But I am going to add a little bit of wood texture. If you add this camel over everything, it kind of gives the whole thing a weathered wood look. And I'm going to hit strategic areas of the ship. Maybe the top handles but only hitting a little bit in the center because I do want to keep some of those nice warm colors that I've added in there. We're going to come back with some yellow ochre and some more brown in there. Just similar to the docks and stuff like that I've done. Just putting the basic colors down on this ship. This is just a sunken ship or a destroyed ship, right? A shipwreck, essentially. So I'm just showing you more of the technique. You can see I'm just going over and over and over again. And then the funny thing is I don't usually sit in the same spot. Like, I kind of move around a lot. I kind of build that way, too. If you've noticed, I kind of jump from side to side. Sometimes I actually go on to the next step before I even finish the step I'm working on. I know that's just kind of how I work. I like to work in advance on certain things and see if it'll work before I get to it. If that makes any sense. But anyways, you can see after I've added all that camel, it gives it a nice kind of weathered wood look to it overall. And I did cover a lot of the Pablo. There's a little bit left in there. But it's going to mix nice with this yellow ochre. I like to do a yellow ochre and a real brown mixture. So I mix them together, kind of 50-50 mix. And that gives you kind of a dark yellow. And I put that down first before I'm going to go right to, I don't show you adding it on here in this portion of the video. but I go and add just straight yellow ochre. So I put this dark color down first and kind of mixes the colors that I already have onto the ship already. And then what I do is I come back with just the yellow ochre. Now, I don't put a lot on my brush, and I hit some of the same areas, and that really gives it a nice, weathered wood highlight in the center. So we're just going to take a look at me adding this mixture, this yellow ochre and real brown mixture that I'm putting on right now. Just hitting all the areas that I want to highlight. So this is after, you can see it's a little more yellow. I also hit those details like the seahorse and those like a British cross button that I put on there on the top corner. And so I just kind of hit that with that yellow as well. So now I decided to paint the bottom. I usually do white, but on this ship I'm going to put in, that's Cardinal Red. That's another full cart paint color, which is a fantastic color, by the way. And I like to put it in really light and then just kind of work it up, more layers on it. And you eliminate any chance of, like, you can see brush strokes or stuff like that in there. You just kind of blend it in there. See how nice and smooth that is? So that's, I'll add it on there. And I like that red bottom. It's a nice, good contrast from the colors that I'm already putting in. So now I'm going to paint that with that sand golem. That's a speed paint. That looks fantastic on wood. So I'm going to use that to trim all the way around the edges. The other details, I'm going to use copper. That's gunmetal for the cannon. And Agrax Earth Shader to kind of put over top of all of that, just to kind of darken it. So this is after I've added. You see how that yellow golem, I added it in there? Looks fantastic, eh? All I did was wipe it on. I didn't actually do anything special. But it looks fantastic. And then the copper is on there, and then I added Agrax Earth Shader over everything. So now I'm using Pure Red. This is an Army Painter paint. You could use Apple Red, which is another full cart paint. It is a brighter red. And I like to add, like, there's highlights in here. So if I added that dark Cardinal Red first, and I'm going to add this other red in there afterwards, this Pure Red. And you see it's got nice bright highlight. I use this on my miniatures too, for the coats on British soldiers and stuff like that. Anything on a cape or anything like that would work as well. So I really like that vibrant, bright red. I decided this is a fairly new Shipwreck. So then I added this glossy finish on here. It's a technical paint by Army Painter. It's like a varnish. And the reason why I added it to the tips and the ends here, that's the closest to the water. So all these paints that I've been using have a flat finish. So I really wanted to add that detail onto the areas closest to the water. So it looks like it's wet and the water's been hitting, the waves have been hitting it. So I added some of that varnish to those areas just to get that detail. Probably not as apparent on the screen here, but I assure you, if you looked up close at it, it's there. It adds that extra detail. All right, so let's get down to the game table and see in action. So we got Blackbeard and his pirates running across this shipwreck, and they're looking to plunder anything that's left on this wreckage. But they don't realize that there are some maroons on the other side that have the same idea. And they also want to raid the plunder on this side. So it's kind of interesting match. The maroons are actually a new faction in the Raise the Black. Really cool faction, and actually I think very appropriate for this piece of terrain, this marooned ship. So it came out pretty good. I'm really happy with this. I would like to do a series of shipwreck damaged kind of ocean things that I can put on there, which would be an interesting series of videos. All right, so that's a wrap on this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one.